Hi friends, this is Judson. I want to be able to share with you today's encouraging word. We're going to be finishing up, that's a lie. We're in the middle of John chapter 19, verses 12. We're going to be going over to verse 24 today. I almost said we're going to finish this chapter, but we have another day in this chapter over here. And Pilate is about to sentence Jesus to death, and today we are going to have Jesus dying on the cross. Many details over here that we can be able to look at. We can be able to focus on many things. But one of the issues that John had really kind of highlights, and I kind of talked about these in the past a little bit, but in this whole telling of everything that's been going on, is that Jesus is our King. When Jesus tells Pilate, my kingdom's not of this earth, and such, and people are making the accusation, are you the king of the Jews, and kind of going back and forth. You're going to see some of that really play out over here, and that stuff is in the other gospels also, but it's a little bit more highlighted in the book of John in regards to the details of talking about how yes, Jesus is our king, even though that was used as an insult and criticism, and it was even used in the attacks against Jesus in regards to what brought him to Pilate in the first place. But first, we need to be able to continue over where Jesus is not answering Pilate's question. And Jesus tells Pilate that, there's a greater authority than you, Pilate. Kind of like, there is a greater authority than the king, or there's a greater authority than Caesar. And that is kind of what Jesus is saying. And Jesus is letting them know that he is of that greater authority. Verse 12 from chapter 19 of John, we are going to be starting. It says, "From there on, Pilate sought to release him. But the Jews cried out, 'If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar.'" So Pilate is trying to publicly release Jesus. He doesn't want to arrest Jesus, and they're trying to put political pressure on him in other ways, and they're saying, hey, you're not going to be a friend of Caesar because of this. And they're once again, because if there's another king out there, that other king is not able to work with Caesar. It's one of these things where Pilate wants to continue to release Jesus, and he's talking to him privately indoors, whereas he talks to the Jewish people outdoors because they can't come inside on various things. And finally, we have the big final confrontation where Pilate brings Jesus back outside, and he stands him out over there. And it says in verse 13, "So that when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement, in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now, it was on the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews, 'Behold your king.'" Once again, really kind of emphasizing this. Pilate, once again, he has Jesus out there, and he says, "This is your king." And that does not go over well. And they cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him." Pilate said to the others, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priest answers, "We have no king but Caesar." So he delivered him over to be crucified. And so here Jesus is being crucified because he is a different king for a different kingdom. And Jesus is taking this in. He's not fighting back. He's not arguing. He is not defending himself in this particular situation. And Jesus goes to the cross. Here in the description that John has for Jesus, it doesn't have a lot of details that the other Gospels have, but once again, he's going to continue to focus on this issue of Jesus being our king. But not only Jesus being our king, but in the Old Testament, there's all these prophecies about how Jesus is going to be this Davidic king, this king from the line of David, and John's trying to show that Jesus is that king. not this political king that Caesar is a part of and Pilate's a part of, and even the chief priests are a part of. But Jesus is a different type of king, and he wants us to be able to see how Jesus is this divine, eternal king that was prophesied a long time ago. And there was a lot of prophecies about this king. And so John wants to show how these prophecies are being answered in what happened to Jesus over here. And this is evidence of his kingship. So take that as you will. Let's jump on in over here. The second half of verse 16. So they took Jesus. Verse 17. And he went out bearing his own cross to the place called, to the place called the place of a skull, which is in Aramaic called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him two others, one on either side, and Jesus between them. Pilate also wrote an inscription and put it on the cross, and it read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Many of the Jews read this inscription, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Aramaic, in Latin, and in Greek. So that the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, do not write the King of the Jews, but rather this man said, I am the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written. So you see a little back and forth going between these guys. But Pilate says, hey, you guys are going to kill him because you think he's the King of the Jews? Fine, then we're going to kill the King of the Jews. When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garments and they divided them into 4 parts, 1 part for each soldier, also his tunic. But the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. So they said to one another, let's not tear it, but cast lots for it to see whose it shall be. This was to fulfill the scripture that said, they divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. So we're going to stop over there. Excuse me. And then, so the soldiers did all these things. That's at the very end of verse 24. We're going to end over here with that. What this is talking about, once again, is the fulfillment of prophecy. But these prophecies were written about the future Davidic king. And then Jesus is being called the King of the Jews. And we're being hammered home over and over and over again that is our king. The king that we are able to put our hearts under and to be able to put our trust in. Jesus goes to the cross. There's not a lot of details over here. There's not a lot of emphasis on the slow motion goriness of what's going on. You'll notice when you read the Gospels, there's not a lot of emphasis on the pain that Jesus went through. And when we watch a lot of movies from Hollywood, even from Christian movies, I remember watching the Jesus film back in the day, and that was like used by my church when I was in high school for a ton of different things. They loved the Jesus film. I remember watching the Johnny Cash Jesus movie. I'm forgetting his name right now. I've watched a bunch of various different Jesus movies. The Passion of the Christ obviously is a big, well-known one, and there's other ones. There's good Christian movies that we can be able to look at. Even Christian movies, they always really highlight and emphasize the pain that Jesus went to on the cross. And movies are cinematic, and they want to show things. They always show in slow motion the nailing of hands or the nailing of feet onto the cross. It's a big dramatic moment in all these various movies. But when you read the Gospels, they're very plain and matter of fact about this, because John wants us to not focus on he doesn't want us to focus on the pain that Jesus went through. He wants us to focus on the idea that is our king, and the idea of what does it mean that Jesus is this king of a different kingdom. That is what John wants us to be able to focus on, and he wants us to be able to focus on how the prophecy is being answered so that we can be able to have forgiveness of sins. The idea that Jesus was killed, when we talked about it was a day of preparation for Passover, it was at the 6th hour. It's all going into showing that Jesus is, that Jesus is that Passover lamb, that sacrificial lamb that is sacrificed for the sins of the world. And those are all also parts of what we're going to be looking at, well, next time. Thank you very much for joining me over here today. I look forward to being able to share more encouraging words with you. I believe next week we are going to be ending the book of John. And I don't know exactly what we're going to do afterwards, but we're going to do something. So just want to let you know. Thinking about that and looking forward to that. Appreciate you guys. Love you. See ya. Bye.